Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Depends on what part of the planet you are. I'm talking from Greece. It's 2002. So the parallel time. And Miss Lizani has connected from USA. We have one more guest, Mr. Lloyd Halferty. Hello, can you hear us?
Think we might be working on the audio.
Yes, it must be working. So, Miss Lizanish, you are welcome to introduce today's theme.
Uh, Thank you very much. Yes, today's theme has to do with the structure of the project that we're working on. And in a quickly changing world, finding a common solution to a variety of problems seems incredibly rare. Large programs appear impossible to tackle. But what we know here is that the only difference between a large program and a small one is the management of the numbers. The details remain the same. And today, what we're going to be discussing is the structure and stabilization of communities through community partnership models. So, go ahead and get started with that, I'd like to share the screen. Hopefully you can see. Let me know if you can't. So our very first one here is regarding we've identified 4 points here in terms of what needs stabilization in order for communities to grow and thrive and create upward mobility. We'll be looking at this one by one. The problem here is increasing food insecurity. What occurs with this is overuse of the land and attempt to use the land for non-indigenous means, taking away the trees to try to keep warm, and forage have create a lot of problems. So our solution here, part one, is restoration of managed land through permaculture. Bruce Charles Billison is the founder of the permaculture movement. Permaculture is an approach to land management and set design that adopts, let me halt that adopts arrangements observed in flourishing natural ecosystems. It includes a set of design principles derived using whole systems thinking. And this definition is from Wikipedia. What we're looking as our next issue, let's have a peek here. Water stabilization. Through syntropic agroforestry, the planting of the trees. Trees have long been used as watersheds to control water flow in high rain areas, but it also has the opposite effect of holding water in the soil. Syntropic farming is an innovative approach to regenerative agriculture, which allows us to create dynamic, successful, and economically viable ecosystems that restore degraded soil biodiversity. By understanding and respecting nature's computer systems, complex systems, syntropic farming initiates the natural regeneration of forests and provides a harmonious integration of our food production systems. The additional benefit here, food trees and biochar production, reducing atmospheric CO2. And of course, the added benefits of permaculture is the creation of a new industry for eradication of poverty. Let's close that page. Now, our third issue here is increased migratory and refugee populations creating social friction. Not to mention a huge toll on the land. In cultural education, culture is the very identity of man, and the use of art, music, dance, and sport is an expression of those things which are common to all and individual to each. Arts play a distinctive role in challenging authoritarianism, as art creates pathways for subversion, for political understanding and solidarity amongst coalition builders. Art teaches us that lives other than our own have value, like the proverbial court jester, who can openly mock the king in his own court. Artists who occupy marginalized social positions can use their art to challenge structures of power in ways that would otherwise be dangerous or impossible. The added benefit here, of course, is people are happier and better able to resolve complex issues. The use of cultural education, artistic programming, increases the usage of the parietal lobes of the brain, which regulate body motion, complex problem solving, as well as a number of other creative pursuits, which can help to make people much, much happier. And of course, we all want that. Now, for our last segment here, upward mobility, and I'll play this on its own.
Are you the champion? Yes, we are. We are the champion. Here we are. We're the champion. It's coming down. Let's see the champion. Here we are. Are you the champion? Yes, we are. We are the champion. Here we are. We're the champion. It's coming down. Let's see the champion. Here we are.
Are you the champions?
Yes, we are.
We are the champions.
Here we are.
Who is the champion?
It's coming down.
Let's see the champion.
Here we are. It's like a Canada. We celebrate. There is the sunshine. It's like a Canada. We need a day. We are the team. High pass. It's Africa. Canada, Canada, Canada. That's right, that's right, that's right.
Wonderful. Community partnerships inherently make all partners invested in the success of the whole process. As I'm going to pull this up higher. As the broad-based structure works as a foundation of all successes, each partner has a slightly different role to play to secure outcomes. Community institutions such as schools, orphanages, community centers are the community base, and instructors in the three pillars that we've listed above are facilitating partners. As several communities may benefit from these facilitating partnerships, those communities may form committees to work on other common issues, such as building and transportation. These groups of community partners are also known as an association. Several associations become a regional partnership, regional groupings become national vendor partnerships, and so on. And the added benefits of this include increased negotiating power for goods and services for all partners, not just in food production, but biochar, textiles, infrastructure, and yes, sports, arts, and academics. Throughout this process, there are a number of other opportunities to be had for study, research, preservation of communities as a whole. Due to mass amounts of migration stemming from difficulties on the eastern portion of the continent, we are looking at stabilizing communities that have included the influx of up to 10 million refugees. Between this and climate change, we're looking at issues. My next guest, Mr. Lloyd Helferty of Energeme University, just out of Toronto, Canada, has spent decades putting together just such a plan for this upward mobility. And he's going to be stepping up next. So, hello, Lloyd. Do we have a problem?
Mr. Lloyd, do you hear us? Can you say something?
Oh yeah, sorry. My app just crashed. Couldn't hear a thing for the last 3 minutes or so. I had to restart. So I guess I'm on. Is this? Okay, sorry. So I just need to figure out how do I share my screen here.
In the center of the bottom of the screen that you're on, you'll find several icons, the microphone,
Mm-hmm.
camera, and right next to that will be screen share.
Right. Okay, I see it. I can't tell which one is which. I think
It's the one in the middle.
No, it's just it's such a tiny little image that I can't show. Okay, this is my presentation about the Global Unity Network. So let me start. My name is Lloyd Helferty, Chief Ecosystem Director for Energeme University in New York. I am in Canada, in the Greater Toronto area. So Energeme University is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit company. So we are a UN Global Compact member, UN Academic Impact member and partner. So it is a virtual university, was created to empower global populations to reestablish a more sustainable balance for the local environments. We are designing and implementing projects to support local economies So with core sustainable technologies and infrastructure for the communities, mostly focused on renewable energy, along with local waste management, local water resource management, as well as what we call high density food growth solutions. So we are representing about 375 companies. We support, though, for the most part, local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of the various types of regenerative integrated solutions, closed loop systems that support self-sufficient and sustainable communities. So I'm also part of this organization called We Energize Global Cooperation Turtle Island. It's an international civil society organization that promotes what we call life value peace education, done in the context of what we call life learning gardens. And as well, as I mentioned during a recent IGU summit that we just held, I'm a Goodwill ambassador for an organization called the 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles. And my portfolio is Canada, where I live, along with the Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, Turtle Island communities, and most recently, this Turtle Island organization is building something called the Global Unity Network, which you see on the screen here, which it says on the screen there to support, uplift the delivery of learning programs, practical hands-on education and training, and promoting all of our youth and female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who have replicable regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals. But more than just supporting and uplifting, we say that we are creating what we call an empowerment network for the globalization of the global goals. And we're using the regenerative solutions, specifically something called open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions. But we start in least developed communities and economies. And our mandate is essentially to leave no one behind. So as per the global United Nations SDG mandate to leave no one behind, which is one of the core pillars of that program. So we're using some tools for this, creating these networks, what we call humanitarian entrepreneurship. So we're focused on female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises. We also leverage something called a hybrid system of learning with both virtual and hands-on education and training, learning programs, platforms, and curricula, with our focus mainly on the delivery of this humanitarian entrepreneurship, the skills training in these practical settings. So we want practicum learning, but we also leverage, as I mentioned, the open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions, basically to remotely assist local community teams, both the humanitarian entrepreneurs as well as what we call interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, to utilize these what we call unity gardens in all the local communities around the world, basically setting up classrooms in collaboration with existing schools in these local communities, used for the remote virtual delivery of these practicum learning programs for all of these humanitarian entrepreneur members, so they can basically learn how to not only grow, but also process, cook, market, sell, trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food, plus any related nutritional or medicinal or other locally produced regenerative products within the local communities, or regionally, nationally, continentally, or even internationally, if it's where they can find the markets for these products. So we basically want to teach entrepreneurship to produce income, and that leads to greater prosperity for themselves, and especially also for the people in their own local communities. We're building this network on all continents right now, but focus on Africa in particular. But as I mentioned before, our intention is to leave no one behind. So you can see there that we use these what we call modern fourth industrial revolution tools. What really that means, people have heard probably about the renaming of Facebook to Meta. Meta basically is this concept of the metaverse. So using some of these latest tools of the latest generation of the internet, this metaverse tools. So establishing high-speed internet is part of the program of establishing the Unity Gardens. High-speed internet allows access to these modern networking tools of the metaverse. So our virtual collaborative network, what we call the Interchange for Peace, is actually intended to be built on as a metaverse platform, accessible through these virtual learning networks through the establishment of these Unity Gardens. So bringing everybody into these network spaces, but our collaboration is also to leverage what we call the deep indigenous knowledge of our ancestors, living indigenous people of the earth, so we can start learning from each other, basically about how to share this abundance that we can create in each of our own local communities through, for instance, permaculture systems and these regenerative solutions. So we are focused as well, creating productive climate smart landscapes wherever people live in and around all of their local communities. So we really want to as well restore nature and biodiversity, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth, which is where we're leveraging this We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island. So we'd like to create stewardship programs in each of our own local communities as well. So as we move forward, what we're doing essentially is what we call the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board Goodwill Ambassador process of localization of the global goals, trying to help everybody in their own local communities establish these networks. So basically establishing local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, so identifying those entrepreneurs in the local communities, as well as these what we call community support networks, but actually, as I said before, the empowerment networks. So these humanitarian enterprises are supported by the local community network. So the INAB collaboratives, these Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives, or INAB or INABCs. So the Abraham project that we're doing is planting these trees of peace and reconciliation, having these tree planting ceremonies, which are going to start on World Environment Day, which is June 5th, which is a month from now. And basically what we do is plant the trees of peace and reconciliation. We invite all of the relevant community members to these ceremonies and have them sign a declaration that they will support those local community humanitarian entrepreneurs in the establishment of these Unity Gardens. And the Unity Gardens will be set up as humanitarian enterprises. So these enterprises in the local communities are the people, the businesses that are actually producing the regenerative climate smart food in the local community. So whether it's a food forest or these polyculture food forests, or whether they are some of the other solutions that we are promoting, we call the Victory CSV Gardens, Victory Gardens, Climate Smart Victory Gardens, Wheel of Life Farm Schools, Climate Smart Kitchens, and another solution, which is actually a building called a solar roof pod building. So there's an organization called PodNet. So they have a regenerative structure for growing in a controlled environment, controlled environment like a greenhouse, but it's actually a special design that is also open source as well. So in this Abraham project, as we call it, what we want to do is create what we call the garden world, where we're going to encourage the humanitarian entrepreneurs to establish these Unity Forests as part of the network of Unity Gardens, as we call them. All the solutions we call Unity Garden. So we're starting here in Canada. The initial thought when we first did this was originally actually about more than 2 years ago, where we wanted to actually help Canada plant 2 billion trees. But now we're trying to help as well Africa and the diaspora. So the African diaspora around the world, including in the United States, including in other countries, such as in Brazil, to also establish these Unity Gardens as humanitarian enterprises in their local communities that would be regenerative infrastructure solutions. So those starting with the forests and the gardens, but also moving up to the more sophisticated solutions of these what we call open source regenerative climate smart solutions. So the process of planting the trees of peace and reconciliation themselves to establish the support networks is really what our business is, as what we call our business called UnityNet International, is to actually create these support networks, these INAB collaboratives, which are basically intended as interconnected network, a global network of these local community networks, of those 7 sector partnerships. So we have this template called the Heptamatrix Partnership template, where it's public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, and Orange Economy, which Orange Economy is basically the creative sector. So once we create those local partnerships, they come together on the virtual collaborative network, which we call the Interchange for Peace, and interact with each other through virtual events. So for instance, today we had something called the IGU Summit, but we're going to be developing a number of different virtual events that can bring all of the members of those local communities together virtually to have these conversations around peace, regeneration, and forgiveness, which is actually reflected in the local trees that are planted. So we plant the trees of peace and reconciliation in the local community to become safe spaces, sacred spaces actually in the local community, where people can come together, put aside all their differences, and come to talk about and discuss solutions to the problems in their communities, where their intent of the planting of the trees is to put aside all their differences, whether it's cultural differences, whether it's racial differences, whether it's differences in their religion or other politicals, for instance. They are intended to be sacred spaces where people should put aside all those differences to basically start to address the problems, especially of the most marginalized people in their local communities. So the idea that we have is to have these events starting on June 5th of this year, so in a month, with some local communities, and begin establishing these INAB collaboratives. So we have this as well that is intended to focus on the areas you're seeing here, where we're wanting to especially teach younger people, but families all across all ages, about some of the concepts of, as listed there, trust, mutual confidence, interdependence, forgiveness, responsibility, the equality of humanity. So we have this framework that we're developing. You can learn much more about it, of course, by attending one of our IGU Summit events, which we do host every Thursday as well. So I just finished up that event. But these are actually some of the slides from that event. So we do have a number of events. We have sort of 5 key events that we do during the year. So this Abraham Project, the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, which starts on June 5th. So to begin to establish these local INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, which are intended to support those humanitarian entrepreneurs, which we're hoping that they'll set up as cooperative businesses focused on the least developed country, what as we call LDCCEs, least developed countries, communities, and economies, with this focus on leaving no one behind. So the next event we call the Community Bubble Fund Festival. So this is now, we move from the tree plantings. So as we create these sacred spaces in each of our local communities, we want those sacred spaces, the trees, to be planted at the Unity Gardens, but also at the partners of the INAB collaborative. So we've set up the 7-sector partnership. So every one of the partners should have a Tree of Peace and Reconciliation. So we can have Bubble Fund festivals now taking place at the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation that are planted in the local communities, whether it's in public parks or on private property. Really doesn't matter to us. We want the trees to be planted throughout the communities, everywhere, by those partners of the INAB collaboratives that are supporting the humanitarian entrepreneurs. So this next event we're planning through between August 9th and 19th, is really a community engagement event. It's called Bubble Fun Festivals. It's also inclusive of a Bubble Fun sports event that we're creating a network for Bubble Fun sports as well, starting with soccer, so that we can really engage communities in understanding these solutions. So we have the 5 different examples of regenerative climate smart solutions, all of them open source. So starting with what we call Unity Forests, Unity Gardens, all of them are categorized as Unity Gardens, but there's also the forest as a Unity Garden. There's also the farms as a Unity Garden. There's also kitchens as a Unity Garden. And there's these, as I mentioned, these pod buildings that are also serving as classrooms for the community to learn about those solutions in a practicum setting. So they hands-on practicum programs for all ages, but especially for youth. So as we move forward, we want to engage communities at the local level through these Bubble Fun festivals. Again, coordinated around the world, so everybody is having these festivals in their local communities on the same dates and at the same time. And then again, part of the festival happens on these virtual collaborative networks, these metaverse spaces, the Interchange for Peace, as we call it. And then following up on this, we have a Global Cooperation Day event called the Ubuntu Summit. This is a virtual event, so we have a number of virtual events besides the IGU Summit. One of them is this Global Cooperation Day event. So we want to make Global Cooperation Day a United Nations recognized day every October 4th. It is not yet a day that's recognized by the UN, but eventually we would like this day to be recognized by the world as something that it should be celebrated as we move our culture toward, or let's say away from a society that's focused strictly on competition, economic competitiveness, toward a regenerative, as we call a cooperative regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. And so that is our mission, is to achieve that over the next decades. Our focus now is not looking at just the Sustainable Development Goals. We're looking at post 2030. What is the next generation? What is the next iteration of the Sustainable Development, or of the global goals? So it started with the first generation of goals, the 8 Millennium Development Goals in 2000, which have now transitioned over to these Sustainable Development Goals that runs from 2015 to 2030. So what happens post 2030? That's what we're now aiming and looking at and saying we would like the next generation of the global goals to be a regenerative development goals, a set of regenerative development goals, whatever those might be. we're not going to define those, but we would like that terminology to be used so we can start now to demonstrate some of those regenerative solutions, not just regenerative infrastructure, but the regenerative economic solutions that can be applied by the local communities and in the local communities, which includes regenerative production systems, but also regenerative economics that allows communities to become self-sufficient. So this event, Global Cooperation Day, is meant to highlight some of those solutions for achieving a regenerative economy, but many of those solutions are actually cultural solutions, as well as solutions that are embedded in our culture and in our behaviors as well. So the other events that we have that we would like to do this year for the first time will be a Climate Smart Youth Forum, again globally coordinated, both virtually and in person. In this case, we're hoping to have an event done in trying to think of it right now. I keep thinking Ghana, but it's not Ghana. It's Nigeria. So Yeli International in Nigeria has agreed that they would do an in-person event in collaboration with a local university or college and community, and this INAB collaborative that they'd also like to create in at least one of the local communities in Nigeria. But then have that broadcast again through this virtual collaborative network. We may use Zoom this year, for instance, but eventually to have everybody on this Interchange for Peace, so that we can have a global event where we'll then have local education and training in each local community, again through the gardens, the Unity Gardens, and the hybrid virtual collaborative network system that we are establishing. So the last event we have that we'd like to do is actually a what we call community tree planting, globally coordinated again. So this what we call Victory Forest Unity Gardens, which we're now calling Unity Forest Unity Gardens, are these 3D what we like to refer to as 3D polyculture food forests. So that includes the regenerative forest that was presented earlier, but set up as Unity Gardens. The Unity Gardens have the high-speed internet. They have access to this Interchange for Peace. They bring together the entire community with the support of the Unity or these INAB collaboratives, which are the local community Unity networks for those local communities, and to support the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, so female feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs. So other events that we do are virtual, most of them like Tea Diplomacy Initiative as well.
It's Lisa Neves. How are you?
So I'm hearing a lot of background noise. Maybe there's somebody else on the line there.
Going on in the background that I started. Our last speaker is on, but I might be a few minutes late. I just wanted to let you know. Okay.
Okay, so.
All right. Love it.
Yeah, so we have our Victory Forest Unity Garden program. This was now being transitioned over to what we call Unity Forest Unity Gardens. So this is an older slide because we would like actually to have more delivery partners rather than only just the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities, which was the first one. We developed our first partnership with them, but we're hoping that our partnership will expand to other delivery partners. But these what we call Unity Forest Unity Gardens basically are these open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions established as forests, the 3D polyculture food forests, where we again deliver this practical reconciliation through the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation but also through the bringing together of the local communities. So this is what we call our solidarity networks that we're bringing together in support of the global goals. Again, not just the sustainable development goals, but looking post 2030. And we would like to support especially health. So we have a Unity Health Network as well. We have an event happening every Tuesday now for the Unity Health Network, plus a project event every Wednesday. So we're filling up our calendar now. We have Unity African Diaspora events every Monday, Health Network events every Tuesday, project events every Wednesday, ITU Summit events every Thursday, and potentially fairly soon we may have a Partnership for Regenerative Development event every Friday, where we're bringing together all of the what we call continental unity networks. So we now have one continental unity network in Africa. It's called the Unity Net Africa Diaspora. We're attempting to bring together all 55 countries of Africa in a unity network that is bringing together all of these local INAB collaboratives, again, onto this virtual collaborative network, so they can take part in these virtual collaborative network events and learn from each other, share with each other, both the practical solutions as well as the actual cultural solutions and cultural sharing around peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness. And so those are the primary themes of what our Solidarity Network is actually attempting to build. Again, focused on people, planet, and prosperity, essentially. But it's the collaborative effort. It's the collaborative regenerative economy that we are supporting through the establishment of these INAB collaboratives. So I can go on. Here is a slide showing the 7-sector partnership. We call it Heptamatrix Partnership Model for the Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives. Oops. And this is actually the template we're building here in the Greater Toronto area. So this is one example that we have of our UnityNet GTA. So we're building these partnerships for specific purposes to do different things. For instance, with Tukitana EV Canada, which is going to be helping us to plant those trees of peace and reconciliation and establish those INAB collaboratives. And then with Bridges of Hope Canada for technical training of the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, for the Unity 4K clubs, which are actually delivering the learning program, especially for youth in the schools. So we're going all the way down to the youngest students. And then we have a local network, which will then become the support network for the INAB collaboratives, and to help establish an INAB collaborative. So here in the Greater Toronto area, there are actually 25 municipalities. So we want a local INAB collaborative in all 25 of them. But the UnityNet GTA group is supporting all 25 to coordinate their efforts at the localization of the global goals. So we have our Bubble Fun team, Greater Toronto area, and these are in-person events, including the supporting events. And then we have the PodNet Enterprise Hub, which is educating and training people about those higher order regenerative building solutions, those what we call Spark 400 classrooms. So these are like working with especially the community colleges, trades, and others in the community to actually build this infrastructure, this regenerative infrastructure, which is really critical, we think, for humanity to adapt to a hotter climate, and for us to be able to survive essentially climate change. If the climate becomes extreme in many parts of the world, we believe that these solutions are going to be essential for the survival of people if they are going to live in the same geographies in the same places they are living now. The final node of our network is called BIMA International. They're actually based in Washington, D.C., the Black Emergency Managers Association. So we've been in conversations with them about establishing a network node in Canada, which would again collaborate with the Unity network, the local INAB collaboratives, all 25 of them, for instance, as an example in Toronto. So bringing together emergency services, fire, paramedics, anything, so that those Unity gardens also have the capability and the training and ability to actually respond to these sort of emerging emergency events that are happening, whether they are fires or floods or tornadoes or storms or whatever is going to be thrown at us in the future. So this is basically the two pillars of our program. For the gardens, those Unity gardens, we're focused on zero hunger because these are productive community enterprises that are actually producing climate smart food. And of course, climate smart food is taking climate action. So SDG 2 currently and SDG 13 are the two pillars of what's being taught at the Unity Gardens. So food security, SDG 2, zero hunger, along with taking climate action by leveraging our food system. So we have this program that was developed by an organization called Science for Peace, the Climate Smart Food Program, which is actually basically, we have a tagline, solving the climate crisis one meal at a time. And so this idea of creating or growing climate smart food as a way of solving the climate crisis, but also as a way of solving the hunger crisis in the world. And so this, of course, I have this slide here because I say we're not just focused on those two SDGs, we're focused actually on all of the SDGs. So humanitarian entrepreneurship means entrepreneurship that's focusing the business purpose. So the purpose of the business, this community enterprise, is actually to deliver solutions to achieving those global goals. Whatever the business is doing, their alignment is with helping to achieve the goals of the community. So what is important in the community? Is it important to establish food systems? Is it important to establish regenerative infrastructure? Is it important to establish forests or maybe clean the water? What are the important things to the community? We would like to help establish those enterprises that can help to solve those and have those solutions implemented locally. So this is one of the guiding principles called Two-Eyed Seeing of the Unity Gardens. So we have this co-learning, intercultural collaboration, and what's called Etuaptmunk, guiding principle of intercultural collaboration called Two-Eyed Seeing, where we are, if you take those, if you look at those links, and I can't share the links here, I'm not sure if it's possible, but to have that framework for learning, which is around collaboration. And so the tree planting events that we have, globally coordinated, coming up, that we'd like to do, really we are focused on these what we call Unity forests as a first step, but also the gardens, so the CSV gardens as well. We'd like to start in Africa, but also have every community in Africa twinned with a community in other country around the world, in another local community. So for instance, a community in Sierra Leone, where we started this network, could potentially partner with, for instance, where I live, the city of Marco, so that those two local INAB collaboratives plus the humanitarian entrepreneurs would start helping each other, learning from each other as well, and there'd be cultural exchange through that network. So we have Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which actually takes place between Global Cooperation Day, which is October 4th, and World Food Day, which is October 16th. So we actually would like to have a number of events happen during that Youth Forum Week. including the planting of these 3D polyculture food forests, unity gardens, as humanitarian humanitarian enterprises set up as cooperatives, more than likely, in the local community that would serve especially those who are most left behind, those who are most marginalized. So whether they're otherwise in the local community, who are the most left behind and the most marginalized. So we say that we are establishing a new 21st century economy of compassion and cooperation, and the recognition of life value as being more important than money value. So this is the concept of undertaking the training and education and awareness in collaborative enterprise development. So this is what we're leveraging this Interchange for Peace for, to bring all communities together, all local communities together through these unity gardens. So the unity gardens are physical spaces. The Interchange for Peace is a virtual collaborative network space where people can come together and share among themselves. So this in total is called the Unity Learning Network. So the virtual and the hands-on practicum training that's done in the local communities. So this is the essence of the Global Unity Network. Again, establishing what we call productive regenerative infrastructure as social purpose enterprises, humanitarian enterprises, uplifting the humanitarian entrepreneurs who have these cooperative enterprises in the local communities through the establishment of the Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives, the INAB collaboratives, which are these based on that HEPTA matrix partnership of collaboration at the local through the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation at the first step, but these ongoing yearly and even every few months programs that bring the community together to remember the reason that we're establishing these enterprises, and also to teach people about the solutions, demonstrate those solutions in reality in their own local communities. So basically, we are starting here in the Greater Toronto Area. This is where we began it all with the UnityNet GTA. GTA means Greater Toronto Area. In partnership with this global organization. So We Energyme Global Cooperation Turtle Island as an international civil society organization. It's not an NGO. It is a civil society organization. We're all volunteers. But We Energyme Global Cooperation refers to three organizations that came together in 2019. We the World, which is in New York, Energyme University, which I work for, also in New York in Manhattan, and Global Cooperation Day, which was originally in New Zealand. They are now setting up their headquarters in Bermuda. So Global Cooperation Day is an organization that has been promoting the October 4th event. So we want to make sure that is recognized. So the idea is practical reconciliation also with Indigenous communities. So we want to partner with Indigenous communities, which is why we have this Indigenous Global Unity Summit. And we are establishing an Indigenous Global Unity Network as well as part of the Global Unity Network. So we can engage the tens of millions of Indigenous peoples around the world to help support this transition to what we call a collaborative regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So as it says in the slide there, the purpose is healing our planet, diversity, and ensuring social integrity. But we're doing this, like I said, with the food, where it's solving the climate crisis one meal at a time. We're trying to solve this restoration to achieve a restoration economy, one community at a time. So we are leveraging all of these networks to do this. Again, we are essentially establishing a global support network for local support networks. So it is a network of networks, the local support networks to support the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs in each local community, but through this virtual learning network, which is global. So the virtual VPN infrastructure tools, this metaverse. So we connect all of these Unity Gardens. We connect all of the virtual collaborative networks, the INAP collaboratives, to build this global network connected through what we call the Interchange for Peace.
Wonderful, Lloyd.
This is the basis of our, and I'll just leave this on the screen so people can see basically what we are trying to achieve here. Is global, but it is also local. We call it glocalization.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you very much.
I would like to add that in 2019, for the International Dance Day, it was right 1 year before the pandemic started, all Dance Day events were dedicated to an event that were held by UNESCO in Africa, and it was called Zero the Hunger. So I think it has to do with your project also, and thank you so much for your work. Miss Liza?
Yes.
So
it
I'll
was-
put myself on mute now, unless there's questions.
It
okay.
was good that we did the fourth one because, as I may see, Mr. Lloyd's presentation was quite rich and we needed this time. So it was in time that you technically did not work last time, and we made it through now fully. We showed to the audience what was needed to be shared from your side.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be sharing it as often as we possibly can. Future tripping on all of this. I've been asked to set up a podcast through IABGA television, and we're looking for those artists and professionals in movement to contribute. The tentative title at this time is Art or Sport. Basically, we're looking at movement structures, how they are interpreted, how they are coordinated, and how do we unify. So
That's great. Thank you so much. Stay tuned and see you very soon.